The warning lights flashed red across Taimin's shuttle controls. He had been working on the alien derelict for only 20 minutes when something grabbed his small craft. The tractor beam was powerful, much stronger than anything humans had built. His fingers moved fast across the controls, trying every trick he knew to break free. Nothing worked. "This is Shuttle 7 to Teguk Pioneer," he said into his radio. "I'm caught in some kind of beam." "Unknown source," Static answered him. The beam was blocking his signals too. Taimin took a deep breath and watched through his window as a massive ship appeared. It had been hiding somehow, invisible to his scanners. The ship was enormous, easily 100 times larger than his shuttle. Its hull was dark purple with strange patterns that seemed to move like liquid metal. The shuttle shook as it was pulled into a landing bay. Taimin had no weapons. His suit had basic tools and an emergency beacon, nothing more. The colony ship had sent him to study old technology, not to fight. When the shuttle settled with a hard bump, he stayed in his seat and waited. The bay doors opened with a hiss. Taimin saw them clearly for the first time. They were tall, much taller than humans. The shortest one had to be 7 feet at least. Their skin looked like it had crystals growing under it, creating patterns of light that shifted from blue to purple. They wore armor that seemed to be part technology and part living material. Each one carried a weapon that hummed with energy. A device floated toward his shuttle. It attached to his hull with a clang, and suddenly he heard a voice in his helmet. "Exit your vessel. You are a prisoner of the Valorian Empire." The voice was female and carried absolute authority. Taimin had no choice. He opened his shuttle door and stepped out slowly, hands visible and empty. 20 warriors surrounded him immediately. Their weapons pointed at his chest. They walked him through corridors that seemed too big for any human building. Everything was sized for people much larger than him. The ceiling was 15 feet high. The doors were twice as tall as needed. When they finally stopped at a large door, it opened to reveal a command center. She sat in a chair that looked like a throne. Her armor was different from the others, marked with symbols that Taimin guessed meant rank. Her crystalline patterns were gold instead of blue, and they pulsed with light. Her eyes were deep purple, and they studied him like he was an interesting insect. "I am Commander Haywan of the Valorian Third Fleet," she said. Her voice came through the translation device clearly. "What species are you?" "Human," Taimin said. "From Earth. My name is Taimin. I'm an engineer, not a soldier." Haywan stood up and walked down to him. She was at least 2 feet taller, and her presence was intimidating. She circled him slowly, looking at him from every angle. The other warriors in the room watched in silence. "Human," she repeated. "We have no record of your species. Yet you have faster-than-light travel. How did you achieve this?" "We built it," Taimin said simply. "Took us about 200 years of work." One of the other Valorians laughed. It was a harsh sound. "This small creature's people built FTL drives? Impossible. They must have stolen the technology." Haywan raised her hand and the laughter stopped. "We shall test this claim. Take him to the simulation room." Taimin was pushed and pulled through more corridors until they reached a room full of holographic displays. Haywan explained through the translator that they would run combat simulations. She wanted to see how humans thought about warfare. "I'm not a soldier," Taimin said again. "I fix machines." "Then you will fail quickly," Haywan said. "And we will learn that humans are not a threat." They put him in a chair and gave him control of a simulated fleet. The interface was alien, but Taimin was good with technology. He figured out the basics in a few minutes. The simulation started. He commanded 5 ships against an enemy force. Haywan herself controlled the enemy. Taimin lost the first simulation in minutes. The Valorian tactics were overwhelming based on power and direct assault. For the second simulation, he changed his approach. Instead of fighting directly, he made his ships run. He used asteroids for cover. He sent false signals. He split his forces and attacked from 3 directions at once while the enemy chased shadows. The second simulation lasted 30 minutes. Taimin lost again, but he destroyed 3 of Haywan's ships first. The third simulation was different. Taimin had learned the patterns. He knew how Valorians thought about battle. They valued honor and direct combat. They would not hide. They would not retreat. He used this against them. His ships pretended to flee, then ambushed the pursuers. He targeted support vessels instead of the big warships. He made the battle chaotic and confusing. The third simulation ended with Haywan's fleet scattered and unable to coordinate. Taimin won. The room was silent. Every Valorian stared at the displays in shock. A warrior named Jiwan stepped forward, her face angry. He cheated. Those tactics have no honor. The simulation has rules, Heiwan said quietly. He broke none of them. He simply fought in a way we did not expect. She looked at Taimin with new eyes. Something had changed in her expression. It was respect mixed with concern. She spoke to her officers in her own language, too fast for the translator to follow. They argued back. Taimin stood still and tried not to show his fear. Finally, Heiwan turned back to him. You present us with a problem, human. You are small and weak in body, but your mind is dangerous. By our laws, one who defeats a Valorian commander in combat must be addressed. I didn't defeat you in combat, Taimin said. It was just a simulation. A simulation of my own design where I held every advantage. You still won. Heiwan stepped closer. Our traditions are clear. A worthy opponent must either join us or be eliminated. We cannot allow potential enemies to exist without resolution. Taimin's mouth went dry. Join you? What does that mean? Marriage, Heiwan said. You will become my bonded mate. This is a great honor. For a moment, Taimin thought the translator had made a mistake. He actually laughed, then stopped when he saw no one else was laughing. You're serious, completely. The alternative is trial by combat to the death. You would face my champion in the arena. I estimate you would survive perhaps 30 seconds. The other warriors in the room made sounds of agreement. Jiwan smiled coldly. Probably less. Taimin's mind raced. This was insane. He had left his shuttle to explore old technology, and now an alien commander was proposing marriage or death. He looked at Heiwan's face, searching for any sign of humor or deception. He found none. Can I have time to think about this? He asked. Heiwan considered this. You may have 24 hours. Use this time to understand the honor being offered to you. Guards will show you to quarters. Do not attempt escape. My ship is in deep space and your colony vessel is many days away. As the guards let him out, Taimin looked back at Heiwan. She watched him go with an expression he could not read. The door closed and he was alone with his guards walking toward an uncertain future. His simple mission had become something impossible. He had 24 hours to decide between marriage to an alien warrior or death in an arena. The universe, Taimin thought, had a terrible sense of humor. The quarters were larger than Taimin's entire apartment back on Earth. The ceiling stretched high above him, and the furniture was sized for people twice his height. He had to climb onto the bed like it was a small platform. The room had a window showing the stars outside, and he spent the first hour just staring at the endless darkness, trying to process everything. A terminal on the wall blinked with light. When Taimin touched it, text appeared in English. The translation technology was impressive. The message said he had been granted access to cultural databases. Heiwan wanted him to understand what marriage meant to the Valorians. Taimin started reading. The more he learned, the stranger it became. Valorian society was built around female warriors. Women commanded ships, led armies, and made political decisions. Men were rare in positions of military power. Instead, they served as advisors, strategists, and diplomats. A marriage was not about love or romance. It was a political alliance and a military partnership. The bonded mate of a commander shared her status and her responsibilities. He would advise her on strategy, represent her in diplomatic meetings, and manage the social aspects of her position. In return, he received protection, status, and a voice in military decisions. The bond itself was created through technology that linked their minds partially. They would be able to sense each other's emotions and share thoughts when needed. Taimin rubbed his eyes. This was so far from anything humans did. But as he kept reading, he started to understand. The Valorians valued strength, but they also valued wisdom. A commander who chose a mate showed that she understood the importance of different perspectives. It was a sign of confidence, not weakness. The door opened suddenly. Taimin jumped off the bed and landed awkwardly. A Valorian woman entered, her armor marked with medical symbols. Her crystalline patterns were green, and her expression was curious rather than hostile. I am Kyung-suk, Chief Medical Officer of this vessel, she said. I have come to examine you. Commander Heiwan wishes to know if bonding is even possible with a human. You mean it might not work? Taimin asked. We have never attempted bonding with an unknown species. The technology requires compatible neural patterns. If your brain structure is too different, the process could fail. Or worse, it could damage both minds. Kyung-suk pulled out a device and scanned him from head to toe. She made sounds of interest as data appeared on her display. Fascinating. Your body is much weaker than ours, but your brain activity is remarkable. Humans think very fast, processing many possibilities at once. This explains your performance in the simulation. Is that good or bad? Taemin asked. Good, I think, but unusual. The commander will need to adjust to having a mate whose mind moves differently than hers. Kyung-suk put the device away. The bonding should be possible. However, I must warn you, once bonded, the connection is permanent. There is no divorce in Valorian culture. You would be tied to Commander Hae-won for the rest of your life. After Kyung-suk left, another visitor arrived. This one was not friendly. Ji-won entered without asking permission, her face cold and suspicious. She was Hae-won's second in command, and she clearly did not approve of the situation. You should choose combat, Ji-won said without greeting. It would be a quick death. Better than pretending to be something you are not. And what am I pretending to be? Taemin asked, trying to stay calm. A worthy mate for our commander. You are weak, small. Your people are unknown and probably insignificant. Hae-won is one of our greatest warriors. This marriage would embarrass her. Taemin felt anger rise in his chest. She's the one who offered. I didn't ask for this. Because you defeated her in a simulation. One simulation? That does not prove you are worthy. Ji-won stepped closer, using her height to intimidate. If you had any honor, you would refuse. Fight in the arena. Die with dignity. My dignity doesn't require me to die, Taemin said. And maybe your commander sees something you don't. Ji-won's eyes flashed with anger, but she did not attack. She simply turned and left, her footsteps heavy on the metal floor. Taemin sat down and tried to slow his breathing. He was making enemies already. The hours passed slowly. Taemin read more about Valorian culture, trying to understand what his life would become if he accepted. The database showed him images of bonded pairs working together. The mates were clearly respected, not treated as property or servants. They stood beside their commanders as equals in many ways, but they were also expected to fight when needed. Every mate learned combat even if they were not warriors by nature. They represented their commander's honor, and weakness would reflect badly on both of them. Taemin had never been a fighter. He solved problems with his mind, not his fists. Could he really learn to be what these people expected? When the 24 hours were almost over, Hae-won came to his quarters herself. She entered alone without guards, which surprised him. She looked at the terminal and saw what he had been reading. You have used your time wisely, she said. Do you understand what I am offering now? I think so, Taemin said. But I have questions. Ask them. Why me? You could choose anyone. Someone from your own people, someone who already understands your culture. Hae-won was quiet for a moment. She walked to the window and looked at the stars. I have been a commander for 15 years. I have fought in 30 major battles. I have earned every honor our empire can give, but I have always followed the same strategies, the same thinking as every other Valorian commander. When you defeated me in the simulation, you showed me something new, a different way of seeing problems. A different way of finding solutions. She turned back to him. The Valorian Empire is old and strong, but we have stopped growing. We have stopped learning. We need new ideas. Your species, despite being small and weak, built faster than light drives without our help. That shows incredible determination and intelligence. If humans and Valorians worked together, we could both become stronger. So this is about politics, Taemin said. An alliance between our species, partly, but also. Hae-won hesitated, and for the first time she looked uncertain. I am tired of fighting the same battles in the same ways. You interest me, Taemin of Earth. Your mind works in ways mine does not. I believe we could teach each other much. Taemin studied her face. She was being honest, he realized. This was not just about military advantage or political games. She genuinely wanted to understand humans, to learn from them, and if he refused, if he chose combat, humanity's first contact with the Valorian Empire would end in violence. The colony ship would eventually learn what happened. They might try to fight or run. Either way, the chance for peaceful relations would be lost. If I agree, Taemin said slowly. I have a condition. Hae-won's expression hardened. You are not in a position to make demands. I'm in a position to choose death instead of marriage. That's enough leverage for one condition. Taemin stood up straighter, meeting her eyes despite the height difference. If I become your bonded mate, You help arrange an alliance between humanity and the Valorian Empire. Not just marriage between us. A real alliance. Trade protection cooperation. I cannot promise that alone. The High Council makes such decisions. Then promise to present the idea to them. Promise to support it. Use your influence. Taemin felt his heart pounding. Humanity is small and new to space. We need allies, and based on what I've read, the Valorians have enemies too. The Kresh Horde, the text said. You're at war with them. Haywan's eyes narrowed. You read quickly. Yes, the Kresh have been our enemies for generations. They are many and brutal. We fight them constantly. Then you need allies too. Humans are good at solving problems in new ways. You said it yourself. We could help each other. For a long moment, Haywan said nothing. She was thinking, weighing options, calculating risks. Finally, she nodded slowly. I will present your proposal to the High Council. I will support an alliance, but I cannot guarantee they will accept. Some of them believe humans are too primitive to be useful allies. Let me prove them wrong, Taemin said. Very well. Haywan's expression became formal. Then you accept my offer? You will become my bonded mate? Taemin took a deep breath. This was insane. This was impossible. This was his life changing in ways he could never have imagined. But it was also a chance to build something important. A bridge between two species. A future that could benefit everyone, I accept, he said. Haywan's crystalline patterns glowed brighter for a moment. Relief? Happiness? Taemin could not read her alien expression clearly. Then we will proceed to the station for the bonding ceremony. It will take 3 days to arrive. Use that time to prepare yourself. The ceremony is not painful, but it is intense. You will experience my memories, and I will experience yours. There will be no secrets between us after. As Haywan left, Taemin sat down on the oversized bed and stared at his hands. They were shaking. He had just agreed to marry an alien warrior commander and changed the future of human-alien relations. The colony ship would be shocked. Earth would be amazed. His family, if they were still alive, would never believe it. The ship's engines hummed as they began the journey to the station. Taemin closed his eyes and tried to imagine what the ceremony would be like. In 3 days, his mind would be connected to Haywan's. In 3 days, everything would change again. He just hoped he was making the right choice. The alarm woke Taemin from uneasy sleep. Red lights flashed in his quarters and the ship shook with a sound like thunder. He fell from the bed and hit the floor hard. The door burst open and Kyung-suk rushed in, her medical equipment rattling in her arms. Get to the command center quickly, she shouted over the noise. We are under attack. Taemin ran after her through the corridors. Other Valorians rushed past them, moving to battle stations with practiced efficiency. The ship shook again, harder this time, and Taemin had to grab the wall to stay standing. When they reached the command center, he saw chaos on the displays. Haywan stood at the center, her armor fully activated and glowing with energy. Her voice was calm despite the situation. Report, how many ships? 32 enemy vessels confirmed, Jiwon said from her station. Kresh Horde raiding fleet. They were waiting in ambush behind the asteroid cluster. We have 1 ship against 32, Haywan said. What are our options? We run or we die, another officer said. Our weapons cannot defeat that many. The ship rocked with another impact. Taemin saw the damage reports scrolling across the screens. The shields were failing. The weapons were overheating. One of the engines was already damaged. They had minutes, not hours. Haywan saw him standing there. For a moment, their eyes met. Then she made a decision that surprised everyone. Give the human access to tactical systems. Observer status only. Commander, no, Jiwon protested. He could sabotage us. If he wanted us dead, he would simply do nothing, Haywan said. Quickly. We have no time to argue. A console next to Taemin lit up with information. He saw the battlefield displayed in 3 dimensions. The Kresh ships were ugly, brutal things, all sharp edges and heavy armor. They surrounded Haywan's vessel in a loose formation, firing from multiple angles. The Valorian ship was returning fire, but it was like trying to fight 30 people at once. Taemin studied the patterns. The Kresh were not stupid. They coordinated their attacks, focusing fire on the weakest shields, but they also followed predictable patterns. They believed in overwhelming force, in crushing enemies through numbers. Their formation was strong but rigid. Can they hear me? Taemin asked Kyung-suk, who stood beside him. Yes, your console has communication access. Taemin took a breath and spoke. Commander Haywan, I have a suggestion. The entire command center went silent except for the sounds of battle. Haywan turned to look at him. Speak. The Kresh formation is strong, but it's designed to trap you in place. They expect you to fight here, to try to break through with force. Don't do that. Instead, run toward them. Explain quickly. Pick their weakest ship, the small one on the left side of the formation. Charge it directly at maximum speed. They will think you are desperate. They will try to block you with more ships, but at the last second dive under their formation and use the asteroid field for cover. Jiwan made a sound of disgust. Run and hide? That is cowardice. That is survival, Taemin said. You cannot win a direct fight, but you can escape and regroup. Once you are in the asteroid field, the Kresh cannot surround you. They will have to chase you in small groups. Then you can fight on better terms. Haywan was quiet for 3 seconds that felt like forever. The ship shook again. More damage reports appeared. Then she spoke with absolute authority. Do it. Helm, target the vessel Taemin indicated. Full speed. Weapons, prepare to concentrate all fire on that target. The ship surged forward. The Valorian crew moved with perfect coordination, following orders without question. Taemin watched the tactical display as they accelerated toward the enemy. The Kresh reacted exactly as he predicted. 3 more ships moved to block the path, creating a wall of metal and weapons. Dive, Haywan commanded. Now. The ship dropped suddenly, engines screaming with effort. They passed under the Kresh formation so close that the shield sparked with proximity warnings. Then they were into the asteroid field, weaving between massive rocks at speeds that made Taemin's stomach flip. The Kresh followed, but their larger ships could not maneuver as quickly. They had to split up, coming at the Valorian vessel in smaller groups. Haywan took advantage immediately. When 3 Kresh ships came around a large asteroid, her crew was waiting. Concentrated fire destroyed one ship and crippled another before the Kresh could react. They will adapt, Taemin said, watching the display. They know this trick now. You need to keep changing tactics. Suggestions? Haywan asked. For the next hour, Taemin called out strategies while the Valorian crew executed them. They used fake debris clouds to hide their position. They rigged damaged ship parts to explode when enemies came close. They sent false signals to make the Kresh think they were in 3 places at once. Every tactic was something no Valorian would normally do, because it involved deception and misdirection, rather than honorable combat. But it worked. The Kresh lost 6 ships before they pulled back to regroup. The Valorian ship was heavily damaged but still functional. When the enemy finally retreated, leaving the asteroid field empty, the command center erupted in surprised cheers. Haywan raised her hand, and silence fell. She looked at Taemin with an expression he was starting to recognize. Respect. Your tactics saved us. The crew thanks you. The other Valorians looked at him differently now. Even Jiwan seemed less hostile, though she still did not smile. Kyung-suk patted his shoulder gently, careful not to knock him over with her strength. But the celebration was short. The damage reports were severe. The ship could fly but not fight another battle. They needed repairs before they could reach the station. And the Kresh knew where they were now. How long to reach the station? Haywan asked. 3 days at current speed, the navigator said. But our engines are damaged. If we push too hard, they will fail. And if we go slower, 5 days. Maybe 6. Haywan studied the star charts. The Kresh will send more ships. They want this vessel destroyed. We are a symbol to them. A reminder of their failures. They will not let us escape easily. She turned to Taemin. Can you help us again if they attack? I can try, but I am not a miracle worker. If they send 50 ships next time, no tactics will save us. Honest. I appreciate that, Haywan made her decision. We take the 3-day route. Speed over caution. If the engines fail, we will deal with that when it happens. The crew scattered to their tasks, beginning emergency repairs while the ship limped forward. Taemin found himself with nothing to do for the first time since waking up. He stood awkwardly in the command center until Haywan approached him. Walk with me, she said. They went to an observation deck, a quiet space with large windows showing the stars. The asteroid field was behind them now, and space looked peaceful again. Haywan stood at the window and Taemin stood beside her, though he had to look up to see her face. You asked earlier why I chose you, Haywan said quietly. Now you have your answer. In battle, I think in straight lines. Attack, defend, retreat. But you think in circles and spirals. You see possibilities I cannot imagine. Together we are stronger than either of us alone. I just got lucky, Taemin said. I saw a pattern and guessed how they would react. Luck is part of it. But recognizing the pattern requires intelligence. Using it requires courage. You have both, she paused. I will tell you something I have never told anyone. When I was young, I watched my mother die in a creche raid. She commanded a small station on the border. The creche attacked with overwhelming force. She followed all the traditional tactics, fought with honor, and died with her crew. I swore I would be a better commander. I would save lives, not just win glory. Taemin listened quietly, understanding that this was important. But I have been following the same traditional tactics, Haewon continued, just executing them better. Today you showed me there are other ways to fight, ways that save lives instead of throwing them away for honor. My mother would have lived if someone like you had been advising her commander. I am sorry about your mother, Taemin said. It was a long time ago, but it shaped who I became. Haewon looked down at him. When we reach the station, the bonding ceremony will happen. After that, we will be connected in ways that are difficult to explain. You will understand my thoughts and feelings. I will understand yours. Are you prepared for that? No, Taemin said honestly. But I do not think anyone could be truly prepared for something like that. Perhaps you are right. Haewon almost smiled. It was a small expression, barely there, but Taemin saw it. Get some rest. The next few days will be difficult. The crew respects you now, but respect must be maintained. And when we reach the station, there will be those who question my choice. You will need to be strong. Taemin went back to his quarters, exhausted. His hands were still shaking from the adrenaline of battle. He had helped fight a space battle using only his mind and a tactical display. People from both species were alive because of his ideas. It felt surreal. As he lay in the oversized bed staring at the ceiling, Taemin realized something. He was not just agreeing to marriage anymore. He was becoming part of something larger. A bridge between two species, yes, but also a new way of thinking about problems. Haewon had chosen him not just for tactics, but for perspective. The ship hummed around him, struggling forward through. The station appeared on the displays like a metal flower floating in space. It was massive, 10 times larger than the colony ship Taemin had left behind. Hundreds of ships docked at its arms and lights sparkled across its surface like a city at night. Orbital Station Sigma Val, the database called it. A military hub and diplomatic center for the Valorian Third Fleet. Haewon's damaged ship limped into a repair dock. As soon as they connected, repair crews swarmed over the hull. Taemin watched from the observation deck as Valorian engineers worked with incredible speed and coordination. Within hours, the worst damage was already being fixed. Impressive, is it not? Kyung-suk said, joining him at the window. We have perfected repair efficiency over centuries of war. A ship can be battle-ready again in days instead of weeks. Humans would take months to fix damage like that, Taemin admitted. We are still learning. Every species starts somewhere. Come. The commander wishes to see you before the ceremony preparations begin. Haewon waited in a private chamber near the docking bay. She was out of her armor for the first time since Taemin met her. Without the bulk of the military gear, she looked different. Still tall and imposing, but somehow more real. Her crystalline patterns showed through the simple clothing she wore, and they seemed to pulse in rhythm with her breathing. We have a problem, Haewon said without greeting. News of our bonding has spread across the station. Many are curious. Some are angry. And one in particular has decided to make her opposition formal. Who? Taemin asked. The door opened and another Valorian woman entered. She was shorter than Haewon but broader, built like a tank. Her armor was decorated with symbols that indicated high rank in many battles. Her expression was pure contempt as she looked at Taemin. This is the human, she said. I expected something more impressive. Commander Bo-Ra, Haewon said with cold formality. This is Taemin of Earth, my chosen mate. Chosen poorly. Bo-Ra circled Taemin like a predator examining prey. You dishonor yourself and our empire by bonding with this creature. Humans are unknown and weak. They have no place among us. That is not your decision to make, Haewon said. No. But I can challenge it under traditional law. I invoke the right of contest. My champion will face yours in ritual combat. If your champion wins, the bonding proceeds. If mine wins, you will renounce this foolishness and choose a proper mate from our people. Taemin felt his blood go cold. He remembered reading about ritual combat. It was a fight to submission or death, no rules except victory, and as Heywan's chosen mate, he was automatically her champion. Heywan's patterns flared bright with anger. You go too far, Bora. The human is not trained for combat. Then perhaps you should have chosen better. Bora smiled cruelly. You have 3 days to prepare him. The combat will be public, broadcast across the fleet. Everyone will see whether your faith in humans is justified or foolish. Bora left, her footsteps heavy with confidence. Taman stood frozen, trying to process what just happened. He was going to fight a Valorian warrior. In 3 days. In front of thousands of people. I will find a way out of this, Heywan said, but her voice carried doubt. There must be a legal exception. There is not, Jiwan said, entering the chamber. She had been standing guard outside. I checked the laws already. The right of contest is absolute. Bora knows this. She planned it perfectly. Who is her champion? Heywan asked. Wan, her bonded mate. One of the best fighters in the Third Fleet. Taman sat down before his legs gave out. This was impossible. He had seen Valorian warriors training on the ship during the journey. They moved with incredible speed and hit with terrible force. He was a human engineer who had never thrown a real punch in his life. Can I refuse to fight? He asked quietly. Yes, Heywan said. But then the bonding is automatically cancelled. And Bora will use it to argue that humans are cowards. Any hope of an alliance with your people would die. So either Taman fought and probably died, or he refused and destroyed humanity's chance at Valorian friendship. Some choice. He laughed bitterly, and the sound surprised everyone. Something amuses you? Jiwan asked. Just thinking about how I ended up here. I was supposed to study old technology. Instead, I am preparing to fight a trained warrior in front of an alien empire. My life has become very strange. Heywan knelt down to his level, bringing her eyes closer to his. Listen to me. We have 3 days. It is not much time, but it is something. I will train you myself. Jiwan will help. Kyung-suk will optimize your body's performance. We will give you every advantage possible. I will still lose, Taman said. Probably. But you do not need to win. You need to survive long enough to earn respect. If you fight with courage and intelligence, even in defeat, you will prove that humans are worthy. That is enough. Over the next 3 days, Taman experienced pain he did not know was possible. Heywan trained him personally, teaching him the basics of Valorian combat, how to dodge, how to fall without injury, how to recognize attack patterns. Jiwan joined the training, no longer openly hostile. She seemed to respect that Taman was willing to try despite the odds. Do not try to match his strength, Jiwan instructed during a practice session. You cannot. Wan is 3 times your mass and has decades of experience. Instead, be unpredictable. Make him frustrated. Make him angry. Angry fighters make mistakes. Kyung-suk gave him medications that improved his reflexes and pain tolerance. She also reinforced his bones with temporary enhancements, using Valorian medical technology that humans had never seen. It would not make him strong enough to win, but it might keep him from dying in the first 30 seconds. On the evening before the combat, Taman sat alone in his quarters, staring at his hands. They were covered in bruises from training. Every muscle in his body ached. He was terrified, but he was also determined. He thought about his family on Earth, about the colony ship waiting for news, about all the humans who would hear this story someday. He could not let them down. Heywan visited him that night. She sat beside him on the bed, and for a long moment neither spoke. I am sorry, she finally said. I brought you into this situation. I am responsible for what happens tomorrow. You gave me a choice, Taman said. I made it. Now I deal with the consequences. Still, I wish there was another way. So do I. Taman looked at her. Tell me about the bonding ceremony. The one we will have if I survive. Heywan described it in detail. They would enter a chamber with telepathic resonance technology. The machines would connect their minds, allowing memories and emotions to flow between them. It would feel overwhelming at first, like experiencing 2 lives at once. But gradually their minds would find balance. They would remain separate people, but with a connection that could never be broken. Does it hurt? Taman asked. No, it feels strange but not painful. You will see my memories. My childhood, my mother's death, every battle I have fought. And I will see yours. Your life on Earth, your journey to space, everything that made you who you are. I am not sure I want anyone seeing all my memories. Some of them are embarrassing. Heywan actually smiled at that. Everyone has embarrassing memories. It is part of being alive. The bond does not judge. It only connects. The combat arena was enormous, easily large enough for 100 people to fight at once. But today it held only 2. Taemin stood on one side wearing light armor that Kyung-suk had modified for his human body. Across from him stood Won, massive and confident in full battle armor. The stands around the arena were packed with Valorian warriors, thousands of them all watching. Above them, cameras broadcast the fight to every ship in the fleet. Somewhere out there, Taemin's own people were probably watching too, though they did not know it yet. An announcer spoke in the Valorian language, explaining the rules. They were simple. Fight until one side could no longer continue. Weapons were allowed. Killing was permitted but not required. Victory through submission was acceptable. Taemin looked up at the stands and found Heywan. She stood with her senior officers, her face carefully neutral. But he could see the tension in her posture. She was afraid for him. The signal sounded. The combat began. Won charged immediately, crossing the distance between them in seconds. Taemin dodged left, exactly as Ji-won had taught him. Won's fist hit the ground where he had been standing, cracking the metal floor. The crowd roared. For the next 5 minutes, Taemin ran and dodged. He could not match Won's power, so he did not try. Instead, he made himself difficult to catch. He used the arena's pillars for cover. He threw dust in Won's eyes. He attacked the joints of Won's armor when chances appeared, knowing he could not hurt the warrior but hoping to annoy him. The crowd's roars turned to confused murmurs. This was not how combat normally went. Taemin was not fighting honorably. He was fighting to survive. Won grew frustrated, exactly as Ji-won predicted. He started taking bigger risks, swinging harder, moving faster. And finally, he made a mistake. He overextended on a punch, putting too much weight forward. Taemin saw it and acted on instinct. He dropped low and swept Won's front leg. The massive warrior fell. The arena went silent. Won was up in an instant, rage burning in his eyes. But something had changed. The crowd had seen a human knock down a Valorian warrior. It should have been impossible. Yet Taemin woke up in the medical bay. Every part of his body hurt, but he was alive. That seemed surprising. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his ribs like lightning. "Stay still," Kyung-suk said, pushing him gently back down. "You have 3 cracked ribs, a concussion, and extensive bruising. My enhancements saved your life, but you still took terrible damage." "Did I lose?" Taemin asked, though he knew the answer. "Technically, yes. You were unconscious. Won won by knockout." Kyung-suk paused, then smiled. "But you did not truly lose?" "The combat lasted 14 minutes. Most expected you to fall in seconds. You dodged, you adapted, you even knocked Won down once. The entire fleet watched a human stand against one of our best warriors and refused to quit. You earned respect. Does that mean the bonding can still happen? It means more than that." Heywan entered the medical bay, still wearing her formal armor from the arena. Bora's challenge failed. You did not win, but you did not shame yourself either. By law and tradition, the bonding will proceed. But something else happened too. An ambassador from the High Council was watching. "She wants to meet you." That sounded ominous. Taemin tried to sit up again, slower this time. Kyung-suk helped him, adjusting the bed so he could lean back. His head pounded with every movement. "When?" he asked. "Tomorrow. After you have rested." Ambassador Da-eun is one of the most powerful members of the High Council. She makes decisions about alliances, trade, and war. If she supports an alliance with humanity, it will happen. If she opposes it, no amount of combat skill will matter. "No pressure, then," Taemin said weakly. Heywan sat beside his bed. "You have done more than I asked. You have proven humans can stand beside Valorians with courage. That is enough. The rest is politics, and I will handle it." But Taemin shook his head, then regretted it as pain spiked through his skull. "No, I need to meet her. I need to make the case for an alliance myself. It is not just about us anymore. It is about 2 species that could help each other survive. You can barely stand. Then I will meet her sitting down. It does not matter. What matters is that humans get a real chance at this alliance." Heywan studied his face for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Very well. But you will rest today. Fully. Kyung-suk will monitor your recovery, and tomorrow you will face perhaps the most difficult challenge yet. convincing a Valorian diplomat that humans are worth the Empire's time. Ambassador Daun arrived the next day with a presence that filled the room. She was older than Haywan, with crystalline patterns that had faded to silver with age, but her eyes were sharp, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had commanded respect for decades. "So this is the human who survived Wan in combat," she said, looking at Tai Min like he was an interesting puzzle. "I watched the recording 3 times. Most unusual. You fought without honor, but also without fear. Which should I judge you by?" "Judge me by results," Tai Min said. He was standing now despite the pain, refusing to look weak in front of someone so important. "I survived. I adapted. I did what was necessary to achieve my goal. And what was your goal? To impress us? To win glory? To prove that humans can stand beside Valorians? To show that we are worth your attention, your respect, and potentially your alliance?" Dayun circled him slowly, much like Haiwan had done when they first met. "Commander Haiwan speaks highly of you. She claims your tactical thinking saved her ship from the crash. She believes an alliance between our peoples would benefit both sides. But I am not easily convinced. Give me one reason why the Valorian Empire should care about humanity." Tai Min took a breath, organizing his thoughts despite the pain medication making his mind fuzzy. "Because we think differently than you do. Not better, not worse, just different. Valorians are strong, disciplined, and honorable. These are great strengths, but sometimes strength alone is not enough. Sometimes you need creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to try approaches that seem strange or unconventional. You speak of your performance in the simulation. That, and the battle with the Kresh. Haywan's ship survived because I suggested tactics that no Valorian would have considered. Hiding, misdirection, using the environment as a weapon. These ideas are obvious to humans because we have spent our entire history being physically weaker than our predators. We learn to survive through our minds." Dayun stopped circling and faced him directly. "And you believe this makes humans valuable allies?" "Yes, because the Kresh are not your only enemy, are they? I read the databases. The Valorian Empire has been at war for generations. You win most battles through superior skill and technology, but you are spread thin. Your warriors are dying in endless conflicts across multiple fronts. You need something new. Not just more ships or better weapons. You need fresh perspectives and different approaches to old problems." Bold words from someone who commands no armies and speaks for no government. "I am just one human," Tai Min admitted, "but I am an example of what we can do when working with others. Imagine fleets where Valorian warriors and human strategists work together. Your strength combined with our creativity. Your discipline combined with our flexibility. We could learn from each other and become stronger together." Dayun was silent for a long moment. Her crystalline patterns pulsed with thought. Finally, she spoke. "I will be honest with you, Tai Min of Earth. The High Council is divided. Some see potential in your species. Others see primitives who stumbled into space by accident. Your performance in the arena impressed many, but it also frightened some. They wonder if humans are too unpredictable to trust. Then let us prove ourselves," Tai Min said. "Start small. Exchange technology. Share information. Let our scientists and yours work on problems together. If it fails, you lose little. If it succeeds, both our peoples benefit. And if humans betray us, use our technology against us, why would we? You are stronger than us in every way. Betraying you would be suicide. We need allies, not enemies. The galaxy is dangerous for small species like mine. The Kresh could wipe us out easily. But with Valorian protection and partnership, we could thrive." Daun turned to Haiwan, who had been standing silently during the entire conversation. "You truly believe in this alliance, Commander?" "I do, Ambassador. I have seen what humans can achieve with limited resources. I believe they could help us find new solutions to our long conflicts. And I believe we could help them survive and grow. It is an opportunity that should not be missed." "Very well." Daun's decision was sudden and absolute. "I will present your proposal to the High Council. I will support it, though I cannot promise the outcome. But know this, Tai Min. If the Council agrees, you and Commander Haywan will become symbols of this alliance. Your bonding will represent the joining of our peoples. You will carry great responsibility." "I understand," Tai Min said. "Do you? You are about to bond with a Valorian commander, something no human has ever done. Your mind will be forever connected to hers. You will share her burdens, her pain, her duties. There is no divorce, no escape. Are you truly prepared for such a life? Taemin looked at Haewon. She met his eyes and he saw uncertainty there mixed with hope. She was taking a risk too, bonding with an alien, an unknown variable, someone whose mind worked so differently from her own. They were both stepping into the unknown. I am prepared, he said. Daun nodded slowly. Then the ceremony will proceed tonight. I will witness it personally, as will representatives from both our peoples. The human colony ship has been contacted and is sending delegates. This bonding will make history. After the ambassador left, Taemin finally allowed himself to sit down. His legs were shaking and not from injury. The magnitude of what was happening hit him all at once. Tonight his mind would be connected to Haewon's forever. Tomorrow he might help create an alliance between species. His simple life as an engineer felt like it belonged to someone else. You should rest before the ceremony, Haewon said gently. I am too nervous to rest. Tell me what to expect. Really expect, not the official version. Haewon sat beside him. It will feel strange at first, like your thoughts are echoing. You will sense my emotions as if they were your own. Happy, sad, angry, afraid. All of it will flow between us. Then the memories will come. Not all at once, but in flashes. Important moments, defining experiences. You will understand me in ways that words could never explain. And I will understand you the same way. Yes, there will be no secrets, no hiding. Everything we are will be visible to each other. She paused. I confess this frightens me. I have been a commander for many years. I have built walls around my emotions, my fears. The bond will tear those walls down. You will see me as I truly am, not as I pretend to be. Maybe that is good, Taemin said. Maybe we both need someone who sees us truly. Perhaps. Haewon almost smiled. You are braver than you look, human. Or stupider. Sometimes it is hard to tell the difference. That evening they entered the bonding chamber together. It was a circular room filled with strange machinery that hummed with energy. Screens on the walls showed neural patterns and brain activity. In the center stood 2 chairs, positioned to face each other with devices that would connect to their heads. Witnesses filled the observation area above. Daun was there along with senior Valorian officers. On the other side of the glob, the first sensation was overwhelming. Taemin felt Haewon's mind touch his own, and it was like standing at the edge of an ocean, vast, deep, and full of currents he could not understand. Then the memories began. He saw through her eyes as a child watching her mother command a border station. Pride and love mixing together, then fire and screams as the Kresh attacked, tearing the station apart. Young Haewon hiding in an emergency shelter, hearing her mother's final orders over the radio. The silence that came after. He felt her determination to become strong, to protect others the way her mother could not be protected. Years of training, pushing her body beyond its limits, the pride when she earned her first command, the weight of responsibility when warriors under her command died in battle. But there was more than pain. He saw moments of joy, a joke shared with Jiwon during a long patrol, the beauty of a nebula viewed from the bridge of her ship, the satisfaction of solving a complex tactical problem. Haewon was not just a warrior. She was a person with hopes, fears, and dreams that went beyond combat. At the same time, Haewon experienced Taemin's memories. Growing up on Earth in a crowded city, the excitement of learning how machines worked, the tragedy when his family died in a mining accident caused by corporate negligence, his decision to join the colony mission, looking for something bigger than himself, something meaningful. She felt his loneliness, the sense of not belonging anywhere. She felt his curiosity, his constant need to understand how things worked. She felt his fear when captured by her ship, and his determination to turn that fear into opportunity. Their minds swirled together, 2 different patterns trying to find harmony. It was chaotic and beautiful at the same time. Taemin could sense Haewon's surprise at how fast his thoughts moved, jumping from idea to idea. Haewon could sense his amazement at the depth of her focus, like an arrow flying toward a target. Slowly, gradually, the chaos settled. Their minds found balance. They remained separate people, but now connected by threads of understanding that ran deep. Taemin could feel Haewon's presence at the edge of his awareness, a steady calm that anchored him. Haewon could feel his creativity sparking like electricity, ready to jump in unexpected directions. When the machines powered down and the devices were removed, they sat in silence for a moment. The bond was complete forever. How do you feel? Kyung-suk asked. Strange. Taman said. Like I am myself, but also more than myself. Connected, Haywan added. Like part of me was missing before, and now it is found. The witnesses above erupted in discussion. This was history being made. The first human-Valorian bonding. Through the glass, Captain Eugene was crying. Taman wondered if they were tears of joy or concern. Ambassador Daun descended from the observation area. The bond appears stable. Medical scans show unusual strength in the neural connection. Much stronger than typical Valorian bondings. She looked between them. This is unprecedented. You have proven that human and Valorian minds are highly compatible. This will influence my report to the High Council significantly. Over the next week, Taman adjusted to life with the bond. It was strange at first, feeling Haywan's emotions as background noise to his own thoughts. When she was angry at an inefficient repair schedule, he felt it like distant thunder. When she was pleased with a crew member's performance, he felt warm satisfaction that was not quite his own. But the bond worked both ways. Haywan could sense when Taman was overwhelmed by the size of the station, or uncomfortable in crowds of towering Valorians. She adjusted her schedule to give him space when needed. They were learning to be partners in more than just name. The political situation moved quickly. Ambassador Daun presented the case for alliance to the High Council. There was opposition, led by conservative members who distrusted humans. But Daun was persuasive, and she had evidence now. The bond between Taman and Haywan proved that the species were compatible. The tactical victories proved that humans could contribute meaningfully to Valorian military efforts. The High Council voted. By a narrow margin, they approved opening formal alliance negotiations with humanity. Captain Eugene and her delegation celebrated. This was beyond their wildest hopes when they started the colony mission. But not everyone was pleased. Bora and her faction remained hostile. They spread rumors that humans were manipulative, using mental tricks to influence Valorian commanders. They pointed to the strong bond between Taman and Haywan as evidence of human deception. Then intelligence reports arrived that changed everything. The Kresh Horde was gathering forces for a massive offensive. Not a raid or a skirmish, but a full invasion fleet. They had formed an alliance with 2 other hostile species. Together they planned to attack both human colonies and Valorian territories simultaneously. An emergency council was called. Military commanders from across the fleet gathered at the station. Taman attended with Haywan, sitting beside her as her bonded mate and advisor. The mood in the chamber was grim. The Kresh have never coordinated like this before, one admiral said, projecting battle projections on displays. They must have intelligence about our recent losses. They sense weakness and are pressing the advantage. How many ships? Another commander asked. At least 300 warships. Possibly more. They will strike within 2 weeks. The chamber erupted in worried voices. 300 ships was an enormous force. The Valorian Third Fleet had perhaps 150 ships available. Even with their superior technology, they would be outnumbered 2 to 1. We must call for reinforcements from the other fleets, someone suggested. The other fleets are engaged in their own conflicts. We will receive some support, but not enough to match the Kresh numbers. Taman listened to the discussion and felt Haywan's concern through the bond. She was calculating odds, running scenarios in her mind. None of them looked good. Through their connection, he could almost see her thoughts, the tactical patterns she was considering. He cleared his throat. Everyone turned to look at him. He was still the only human in a room full of towering aliens. May I make a suggestion? Some commanders looked annoyed at the interruption. Others, who had heard about his tactical contributions, looked interested. Ambassador Daun nodded for him to continue. You are thinking about this as a numbers problem, Taman said. 300 ships versus 150. But what if we change the equation? What if we add human ships to the fleet? Human vessels are small and lightly armed, someone scoffed. They would be destroyed in minutes against Kresh firepower. Maybe. But they are fast and maneuverable. And humans have experience with asymmetric warfare. We have spent our entire history fighting enemies stronger than us. We have learned unconventional tactics that Valorians might not have considered. What are you proposing exactly? The admiral asked. A combined fleet. Valorian warships providing heavy firepower and defense. Human ships providing reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and tactical flexibility. Mixed crews on some vessels sharing knowledge and techniques. It is risky, but it gives us something the Kresh will not expect. The chamber fell silent. The idea was radical. Valorians had never fought alongside another species as equals. Their military doctrine was built on centuries of fighting alone, but Ambassador Da Yun was nodding slowly. The alliance was approved for precisely this reason: to face challenges together. If we cannot work with humans during our first major crisis, what is the point of the alliance? We have less than 2 weeks to integrate 2 completely different military forces, someone pointed out. It is impossible. Impossible is what humans do best, Captain Yujin said. She had been allowed to attend as the human representative. We built faster-than-light drives when everyone said it could not be done. We crossed space when we had no reason to think we would survive. Give us a chance to prove ourselves in battle. HFY stood, and the room gave her attention. She was one of their most respected commanders. I support this plan. I have seen what humans can achieve firsthand. Taemin's tactics saved my ship when all traditional approaches would have failed. If we combine our strengths, we have a chance. If we fight separately, we will lose. The debate continued for hours. Finally, a vote was taken. By a slim majority, the commanders agreed to try the combined fleet approach. They had 12 days to make it work. The next week was chaos. Human ships arrived from the nearest colonies, small and fast compared to Valorian warships. Engineers from both species worked together to establish communication protocols. Weapons experts shared targeting data, pilots trained in joint maneuvers. Taemin and HFY were at the center of it all, serving as the bridge between the two forces. Their bond helped them communicate ideas that were difficult to explain in words. When a concept did not translate well, they could share understanding directly through their mental connection. Ji-won worked with a human pilot named Jae-hee, learning to coordinate attacks between heavy Valorian vessels and quick human interceptors. At first, they clashed over methods. Ji-won wanted rigid battle formations. Jae-hee wanted fluid, improvised tactics, but slowly they found compromise. The formations would provide structure, but with room for improvisation when opportunities appeared. On the 10th day, disaster struck. Taemin was working with a technical team. Integ, the combined fleet, gathered at the edge of Valorian space. 160 Valorian warships, gleaming and powerful. 70 human vessels, smaller but fast and equipped with advanced sensors. Together they formed a force unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Taemin stood on the bridge of HFY's flagship, fortified by Kyung-suk's medications. The drugs kept his mind sharp despite the strain, but he could feel them burning through his system like fire. Every thought required effort. Every use of the bond with HFY sent pain shooting through his skull. But he pushed through it. They all did. The Kresh fleet appeared on sensors like a dark cloud. 310 ships, exactly as intelligence predicted. They moved in a massive formation, confident in their numbers. Behind them, ships from their allied species added another 50 vessels to the count. The enemy outnumbered them more than 3-2. All ships, battle stations, HFY commanded. Her voice carried across the fleet communications, steady and calm. Remember your training. Valorians provide firepower and defense. Humans provide mobility and tactical surprise. We fight as one force today. Captain Yujin's voice came from the human command ship. Human vessels ready. We trust your command, HFY. Show us how to fight like Valorians. And we will show you how to fight like humans, Taemin added, his voice transmitted across both fleets. Remember, victory is not about matching their strength. It is about using ours in ways they cannot predict, the Kresh charged. They always charged. It was their way, overwhelming enemies through sheer force. But the combined fleet did not meet them head-on. Instead, they split into smaller groups exactly as Taemin and HFY had planned. The Valorian heavy cruisers formed the center, a solid wall of firepower. But instead of advancing, they held position. The human ships scattered around them like insects, darting forward to draw Kresh fire, then retreating behind the Valorian shields. They are trying to bait us, the Kresh commander must have realized. But what could he do? If he ignored the human ships, they would attack his flanks and rear. If he chased them, he would leave his main force vulnerable to Valorian firepower. He chose to split his forces. A mistake. The moment the Kresh fleet divided, human ships equipped with electronic warfare systems activated. False signals flooded the battlefield. The Kresh sensors showed targets that did not exist. Their communications became confused with overlapping orders. Their coordination, which relied on overwhelming numbers, started to break down. Now, HFY commanded. Valorian groups 2 and 5 target their left flank. Human interceptors hit their communication ships. The fleet moved like a single organism. Valorian cruisers punched through the crash lines with devastating firepower. Human ships, too small to be priority targets, slipped past the big warships and destroyed the enemy's support vessels. Supply ships exploded. Communication relays went dark. Medical transports were crippled. Through the bond, Taemin felt Haewon's tactical calculations happening in real time. She was thinking 3 moves ahead, positioning ships before the enemy realized they were vulnerable. And through the same bond, Haewon felt Taemin's creative leaps, his ability to spot patterns and opportunities that her more linear thinking might miss. They were truly fighting as one, but the crash had numbers, and numbers still mattered. Enemy ships surrounded a group of human vessels, overwhelming their shields with concentrated fire. Taemin watched on the displays as 3 human ships exploded. He felt each loss like a punch to the stomach. Those were his people dying out there. Focus, Haewon said quietly, just to him through their private bond channel. Grief later. Fight now, she was right. He pushed his emotions down and concentrated on the tactical display. The battle was far from over. The enemy deployed their surprise weapon an hour into the fight. A massive ship, larger than anything on the battlefield, emerged from hyperspace. It was covered in weapons, a fortress with engines. Energy readings showed it was charging something enormous in its core. What is that? Jiwon asked from her station. Taemin's sensors provided the answer. Super weapon. Some kind of energy projection device. If it fires, it could destroy multiple ships at once. How long until it can shoot? Haewon demanded. 4 minutes based on the energy curve. Maybe 5. The Kresh fleet was protecting the superweapon, positioning themselves as shields. They knew it was their trump card. One shot would turn the tide of the battle. All ships target that vessel, Haewon ordered. But the moment she gave the command, enemy ships swarmed to intercept. The Kresh were willing to sacrifice dozens of ships to protect their weapon. Taemin watched the timer count down. 3 minutes. The combined fleet was trying to break through, but they would not make it in time. There were too many Kresh ships in the way. We need a direct strike, he said. Something small enough to slip through their defenses. The human interceptors? Haewon suggested. Too fragile. They would be destroyed before getting close. We need something with shields and speed. His eyes fell on their own ship's status display. The flagship was fast for its size and heavily armored. We could do it ourselves. Absolutely not, Jiwon said. Commander, you cannot risk yourself on a suicide mission. But Haewon was already calculating. Through the bond, Taemin felt her mind racing through possibilities. Every conventional approach failed. The only way to stop that weapon was to get a ship close enough to target its charging system directly. 2 minutes remained. Prepare for direct assault, Haewon commanded. All power to forward shields and engines. Clear us a path. Commander, no, Jiwon protested. That is an order. Haewon turned to her crew. Everyone except essential personnel. Evacuate to the support ships. Go now. Most of the crew left, racing to escape pods and evacuation transports. But some stayed. Jiwon stayed at her post. Kyung-suk remained in medical bay. The essential bridge crew refused to leave their commander. And Taemin stayed beside Haewon, their bond burning bright with shared determination. The flagship accelerated. Valorian cruisers cleared a path, sacrificing their shields to protect the command ship's advance. Human interceptors harassed the Kresh flanks, drawing fire away. The combined fleet was giving them everything they had. 1 minute. The flagship took hit after hit. Shields flickered and failed in sections. Hull plates buckled, but they kept going, engines screaming with maximum power. Through the bond, Taemin and Haewon shared control of the ship. Her combat experience guided their movements. His ability to spot patterns helped them dodge the worst attacks. They flew through a storm of weapons fire like dancers performing a deadly routine. 30 seconds. They were close now. Close enough to see the superweapon's charging core glowing with contained energy. Close enough to target it directly. Fire everything, Haewon commanded. Every weapon on the flagship fired at once. Torpedoes, energy beams, kinetic rounds. All of it focused on a single point. The charging mechanism at the superweapon's heart. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. The superweapon's core destabilized, and the energy it had been gathering erupted outward. The blast wave threw the flagship backward, tossing it like a toy. Systems failed across the ship. The bridge went dark except for emergency lighting. Taman felt pain through the bond. HFY was hurt. He looked over and saw blood running down her face from a cut on her forehead. But she was alive. They were both alive. Status, she called out. Life support critical. Engines offline. Weapons depleted. Jiwon's voice was strained but steady. But the superweapon is destroyed and the Kresh fleet is in disarray from the blast. They are retreating. Across the battlefield, the remaining enemy ships were pulling back. Their superweapon was gone. Their coordination was shattered. And the combined fleet, despite losses, was still fighting as a cohesive unit. The Kresh fled. They had won. The flagship was rescued by Jiwon and Jae-hee, working together in a salvage operation that required both Valorian strength and human precision. They were towed back to the station, where Kyung-suk immediately took Taemin to intensive care. The stimulants and neural stabilizers were wearing off, and the crash was as bad as predicted. Worse, actually. Taemin's body shut down like a machine running out of power. He drifted in and out of consciousness for days. But through it all, HFY stayed connected through the bond. She shared his pain, experienced every moment of his suffering. She refused to let the connection break even though Kyung-suk warned that it was hurting her too. The bond is what is keeping him alive. Kyung-suk explained to the others. His brain wants to give up, but her strength is feeding him through the connection. If she disconnects, he might not survive. So HFY stayed by his bedside for 5 days, their minds linked at maximum intensity. She experienced his memories again, but deeper this time. She felt his fear of dying alone, his hope that his sacrifice mattered, his love for the idea of two species working together, even if he never lived to see it flourish, and slowly, gradually he healed. When Taemin finally woke, truly woke, he saw HFY sleeping in a chair beside his bed. She looked exhausted, her crystalline patterns dim with fatigue. Through the bond, he felt her relief even before she opened her eyes. "You came back," she said quietly. "I could feel you holding on to me."